Thank you everybody for joining into today's session. This is our fourth episode. Today we're going to cover on-demand maintenance and creating work tickets using the workplace interface. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Greg Alevris. I'm with Archibus and I'm the host of this series. I'm a business development director at Horizon, and I've been an Archibus aficionado for more than 28 years. I am definitely here to discuss product capability and share experiences with the broad functionality of Archibus. And today's agenda, we'll talk about the question of the day and, focusing on using mobile, requesting tickets, and then, setting up and managing service level agreements. And then we'll wrap up and open it up for questions to the group and talk about next steps. So I'm going to go ahead and disable my camera because I'd rather have you focus on the segment. So first thing I want you to do is focus on webinar guidelines. So for those that are first-time attendees, we start everybody on mute mode during the presentation to help minimize background noise. At the completion of the presentation, we'll open up the meeting for questions. You can submit your questions during the presentation via the question box, which appears off to the right in your control panel for GoToMeeting. And if you choose and you actually want to speak, you can click your raise hand function and we'll unmute your microphone and you can speak directly your question. So please don't be bashful. We are here to answer your questions. It's not just about me making presentations. So again, just pay attention to those little details and you'll be all set. So how can this series in general help you? Just as a reminder for those that have come and those that are here, we are here to talk about the capabilities of the Archibus product. We want to share our knowledge and experience, both from our staff point of view and from experience working with customers. And we want to help you engage with other Archibus users, people who have paved the way and done some of the things that you might be interested in doing. And we are providing a library of materials that we are collecting for you so that you have a place to go and revisit this material and learn more about the product. And in general, we hope to create a community forum for people to connect with Horizon as well as with other users. So today's question of the day is, do you have any best practice guidelines for staff using Archibus on mobile devices? And are there things that should not be done using the mobile application? That's kind of a two-part question because there's two sides to mobile. One is the workplace interface, and pretty much that's a straightforward interface for the average employee to request services. And in that particular case, there's not much you need to do other than provide access, and it's simply going through a browser on any of the devices that you enable for your employees. It's a little bit more sophisticated with respect to the mobile framework, which is generally used by the maintenance technicians and supervisors that operate facilities. And the only suggestion I have is be mindful of the work that you store on the system, especially for the supervisors, because the more work you keep open and don't close, the more it takes time to sync the device with the server. So that's the one thing I encourage you to do. I can't tell you how many times I've run across customers that have not only maintained a few dozen work orders, but literally hundreds, if not thousands of work orders, and recognize that every time you sync, between the mobile device and Archibus, the server, you are spending quite a bit of time just syncing up the data. So you can save yourselves a ton of time. Other than that, you'll find it very useful, and we'll show some good examples. So there's two sides to using mobile. The images you see here are basically from the employee requester side, and we're giving you examples both from just a workplace portal for requesting services and a catalog of those services, or from a simple dashboard giving an update to the employees of what types of services they've requested and what the status of them are. If we take a step back and we talk about what's going on, the whole purpose is to create an environment where the mobile device becomes an easy way of employees to submitting tickets. It takes away some of the stuff that used to involve face-to-face contact and forgetting to write notes, or telephone calls that got lost in the shuffle, or emails that didn't get followed up on. So what's nice about the mobile is that it's easy and intuitive interface. It allows you to look at the floor plans as a guide to pinpoint work. It allows the customer to, employee, if you will, to attach photos of what they're trying to describe, and even using some of the dictation capabilities, they can speak to what the problem is. They don't even have to type it in on the device if they don't want to. The good part about this is, rather than having to check their email queue amongst everything else that's going on, it actually gives them a direct status to everything that's going on, so they can see reports that show what the status of the request is. They can follow the progress from initiation to in process to completion, and able to verify that it's been done. In some cases, conduct surveys. And it also provides a dashboard, if you will, of a summary of all the different types of requests and services that you might have asked for as an employee, as well as from that submit new tickets. Now, before I get into that, I do have our first poll question. We're going to add something new to our Ask Greg series. So if we can go ahead and put that first poll up. What we want to do is get to know a little bit about what kind of things do you allow your employees to do. So there are 4 choices: pick all that apply, request service, request to move, book workspace, book meeting space. So please take about a minute or so, fill in those things that apply to you, and then we'll see a quick result of what's going on. We'll give it another maybe 10, 15 seconds or so, and then we'll close the poll and see what the results are for everybody to view. So I think that's sufficient. Let's go ahead and close the poll and see the results. So the good news is that everybody is enabling their employees to request services, and that's a pretty good sign. But only 25% of you are, enabling employees to interact and request moves, book workspaces, or book meeting spaces. So, hopefully, as you look at this series, you can see the power of allowing people to use mobile to do a lot of stuff. So let's talk about what happens, once you input the ticket. Well, the ticket has to get in the hands of the technician. The technician's not going to use the Archibus workplace. That's designed, to be a simple, easy user interface, but it doesn't have the power and capability to track all of the work that the technicians and supervisors need to focus on. So we start using the mobile framework, and in there, we can look at all the work that's assigned to us and process it. We can add the relevant information about how much time we spent and what parts we use to complete the tasks. We can have the technician complete the works and notify the supervisors that the work is completed, and then take that work and push it back to the Archibus server so that the supervisors can follow up with any other details. So we have a couple more poll questions that I want to throw into the mix here. So let's go ahead and ask our next poll question, which is, do any service employees currently use mobile technology to manage and update services at your company? And it's a simple yes or no or not sure type issue. So go ahead and fill out that survey. This one should be pretty quick, so we'll give it another 10 seconds and then we'll close it out and see what the results are. Okay, that should be sufficient. So let's go ahead and see what the results are. And right now we show 50% of you are allowing your employees to work with mobile devices, and 38% are saying no. and 13% are saying not sure. So it's interesting that even though employees were using it, that from a requesting point of view, we're still maybe using some of the more old-fashioned printing of work orders and whatnot. So hopefully you'll get to see how easy it is for technicians to use. Let's ask one more question here. So let's clean this result and let's put the other question up, which is for those that are using mobile devices, what is your policy? Do they bring their own device? Do you provide the device for them? They don't provide any devices, or we only provide devices to service employees. So again, we're just trying to get a handle on what the company policies are around using mobile devices. And I want you to think of both the mobile phones, whether they be Android or iOS, as well as tablets, mostly iPads, but even Android tablets are very popular these days. So we'll wait a few seconds here, maybe another 10 seconds, and then we'll close out the poll and continue on. Okay, let's go ahead and close the poll and see the results. So we provide, so good 57% of you are providing mobile devices. I probably should have asked a follow-up question. How many are using phones? We'll be sure to think about that in the future. Then there are 29% of you that do not provide any devices. And in some cases, some of you only provide them for the service employees, which in some cases does make sense because a lot of employees bring their own mobile phones from home anyway. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's continue on here. So how does mobile improve communication and productivity? Well, from the employee experience, it does give them an access to a range of services, so they can ask for work tickets to be performed, moves, booking, booking spaces, finding information. It does give them a direct line of communication with the service provider, so you don't have that intermediary of several phone calls taking place in order to submit the ticket. You can go directly to the service system and either have it issued directly to the technician or have the supervisor look at it and approve it and move it on very quickly. It does give you the mobile input, which makes a lot of times the information quite a bit more accurate, especially when you use the floor plan to pinpoint and validate it against the types of problems that are approved and authorized. So again, it takes away some of the arbitrary nature of people providing information. And it is that one place where the employee can go ahead and submit, their services. From the people who are giving the service, obviously the number one thing is that they can continue working in the field without having returned to the shop in order to pick up the next round of tickets or checking their page or checking their email and seeing what's going on. The work gets directly to their mobile device. It gives them the opportunity to capture the relevant details and requires them to fill in those details as the work is being completed, rather than waiting to the end of the day or end of the work week to fill in any paperwork that needs to be done. And it makes them more productive in general, because what we find is that because they can stay in the field and go from job to job to job to job, they don't have to make a return trip to do things. They would know what parts they need, they would know what work is on their schedule, and they can go ahead and complete. And the end result is it'll help you, the organization, monitor the performance of the groups and making sure that the employees are satisfied, work is being processed, and the right amount of resources are aligned to your system. So we're going to go through some examples of, or at least one example of actually creating a ticket, both from the mobile interface, the workplace interface that Archibus offers, and then seeing how it gets pushed out and in the hands of a technician. So the first thing we're going to do is take that request. What we're going to do in this case, the employee uses their mobile device. I use videos a lot just to help me make sure that we can do everything. Archibus Workplace is neat because it really is just a browser interface. It's adaptive design, allows us to run it on a phone, a tablet, a PC. Here we're submitting a ticket. The person is going to be in a, one of the restrooms and is going to report a clogged drain that they discovered in one of the restrooms. They want to identify or pinpoint the location, and we're going to use the floor plan to do so. And to help them pinpoint it, we're going to actually identify where the restrooms are. And as we can see, we've identified the space, we've selected the location, and now we're going to go ahead and submit the ticket. If needed, we could attach a photo, but in this case, we don't need to, but we do have access to the camera if we do decide to do so. That then brings us to submitting the ticket. And once we have the ticket, we have the ability to track what's going on with it. So we can see a list of all the requests that we submitted. We have a full catalog of all the tickets that have been submitted and what their current status is. And if we go to the very top of the list here, that is the most recent ticket that we submitted. And we can review what's going on. We simply click, and it gives us a simple update that yes, it's been requested, and 2, it's been scheduled. So now we know it's in the hands of the maintenance group, and all we have to do, of course, is wait for the work to be done. What happens next, of course, depends on what the rules of the service level are from the Archibus point of view. I'll show you what happens in this case, and later on we'll get into ways that you can change that. So in this case, we're going to go to the maintenance console that the supervisors are responsible for. They're going to go in and open and take a look at all the requests that they have to handle. And what you'll see on the service console is the ticket that we've identified, 1120, is waiting for approval. So that's part of the workflow that we've set up. We can see that it's been assigned to a technician. So now all we have to do is click the approve button. And what that does is elevate it to the next step and gets it in the hands of the technician. So once the work has been approved, it's changed its status to issued and in process. And now it's up to the technician to do the requisite work. Now, to manage the work in the field, we're going to use the phone of the technician, and they're going to be using the mobile framework. And from the mobile framework, what we're going to do is launch the Archibus application, which is that one right there. And what we need to do is, of course, make sure that it connects to the server and pulls down any relevant data. And we do this on purpose because a technician is going to go in places where there may not be any relevant internet or Wi-Fi signals. So we want to make sure that they can continue working and updating while they're out of range of the servers. So we literally download the data to the device, whereas in the workplace, we're always connected to the server and assume that there's signal for the employees to work with. So here we're just updating to see what work is out there. We take a look, and down below we can see number 1120 has been added to the work that we've been assigned. Now it's up to the technician to fill in the work. They click the start button. They identify the type of work, and if there's a piece of equipment, they would barcode it, otherwise they're skipping it. Here we're just going to literally fill in the time by ourselves. And all that means is we're going to say how many hours we work. We could actually use the stopwatch function of the mobile device to literally track the time needed, but we're not going to wait for 3 hours for you to watch me do that. And so what we did is we just filled in the 3 hours to do that. Once that step has been completed, the technician now brings it back to the work and uses the menu to say that their part is done. So they mark the work completed, and then when they go back to the list, you can see the red dot is there to identify the work has been completed, but it still has to be synced with the server. So they're going to complete that task by syncing the data back to the server. And by doing so, the technician is able to send the work, update the server with the new relevant information, and it comes off of their queue because they're focusing on the work that they have to, manage in place. So this brings us back to the supervisor, and it takes us back to the maintenance console. So let's go ahead and do that. In the maintenance console, what we're going to do is find that the work has been completed. So it's now moved to that last stage there, number 1120. We have taken the cost of labor, which is based on the 3 hours and whatever the hourly rate is for the employee. We can see that it was done on September 10th, and we've completed the task. Using our maintenance report builder, we can review all of the work being done by building, by technician, by problem type. In this case, we're going to take a look for every problem type that is specific to the building TGD Technology Center. And we're going to see the different types of work, including the plumbing request that we submitted previously. And we can look at that data either as a bar chart or in this case as a par chart by simply drilling down into the information. So again, we have the ability to track the status of all work. What I want to do is take the last part of this presentation to focus on how do we manage that workflow? What decisions do we make to help make sure that the work is getting in the hands of the technicians, and when do we need approvals and when do we not need approvals? So the first thing we're going to do is talk about service level agreements. It is our way of establishing the workflow and setting up those standard processes. It helps make sure that we use our resources to the fullest capability, and it allows us to make sure that we issue routine work in a very quick fashion without having to hold it up in a variety of approval processes. It allows us to make sure that we complete the work cycle. To this day, and I've been doing this a long time, there are still people that generate work tickets that never get completed because somebody's not following through. That's one of the goals of Archibus, is to make sure you get through the full cycle of create to closure. And again, all along the way, what we're trying to do is measure the performance of the system to make sure that we're using our resources and meeting the requirements of employees. So let's take a look at how do we go about setting up a service level agreement. We'll go ahead and start again. We do that through the Managed Service Level Agreements view that exists within Archibus. There are any number of processes that you can set up for different sites, for different buildings, for different types of problems. What we'll do is we'll take a look at one that exists already, and then we'll create a new one. In this electrical one that you see right now, what you're taking a look at is that it was designed specifically for anything to do with electrical. It has to do with building NC05, tells us what's going to happen when the work is requested. You'll notice here that it says notify requester of all status changes. So that means every time it's approved, it's been issued, it's been completed, the requester gets notified with an email. It's approved, it gets dispatched to the supervisor who's responsible for getting it out to the technician. A work order is automatically created, the work order is issued, and again, an email goes to the supervisor. And then during completion, there's a notification process for the craftsperson to let them know that they've got to work in their queue. Service is very simple. It just means every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., no holidays, the work can be performed, but not on weekends and not on holidays. And to make sure that the work is completed, the supervisor is responsible for checking the queue for any work that has been delayed, incomplete, or whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and continue. And what we're going to do now is actually go through the process of creating a service level agreement. And I'm going to make some modifications in what we did just to show you the difference. So I'll do this the full route. We're going to go back to our NC05 building, and we're going to make that rule specific to NC05. What we're going to do is identify a specific type of problem. In this case, we're going to simply look at security. So these are all the problem types, and when we go to the S's, we can see security. So we'll keep it open-ended, all types of security issues. And then what we do is we take it to the workflow itself. Now I'm going to do some different things here I want you to be aware of. I'm not going to require an approval. I'm just going to make sure it gets done. I want to set it up so that instead of notifying the requester at all steps, we're just going to notify them when it's been requested and when it's been completed. So we reduce the number of email communications. Once now that the work has been approved, we want a couple things to happen. We want it to go to the supervisor so that they can monitor what's going on. But we're going to auto create and auto issue the work order. So it's going to go right to the technician. In this case, we want it to go to anybody that's designated craftsperson for that particular location. And then upon completion, so everything else takes place, upon completion, we're going to add a notification back to the requester to let them know that work has been completed. And one of the other things that you can do is add a survey that gets sent to the employee, basically saying, hey, we want you to let us know if the work was completed to your satisfaction. So this is all stuff that you can control very easily. And then finally, what we're going to do is, because this is a security access issue, we want 24-hour service on all days of the week, including holidays. And we want to have it responded to within a specific amount of time. So within 1 day, and we want it completed within 2 days. We could have it timed to respond within 2 hours and completed within 4 if we chose to. And as I said before, the person responsible to make sure that the work is completed and not delayed is the supervisor AFM mod. We've now created that work ticket, and it's now added to our service level agreements, as you see down here. Now, so let's see what happens when we request security work. We're going to go back to in this case, the workplace dashboard, and we'll go ahead and initiate a ticket. So we'll pick general maintenance, and we'll use security and access this go around. And the general statements, like I said, you could dictate it if you want, but unable to access the auditorium. Where is that auditorium located? It is on the first floor. And its location is, we're going to be selected right from the floor plan so we can see it. We identify the space, select its location. And again, we cannot use the camera if we choose to. I'm going to bypass that for this go round. Submit the ticket. And there we can see the ticket in our dashboard, and we can see that it's been scheduled for completion on the 14th of September. So good. All right, now let's take it and see what happens from the supervisor's point of view. And very straightforward. Back to the maintenance console. There's a big difference for this work request. Remember, I did not add an edit or approve function. First thing we're going to do is look at the building that we need to evaluate. So we'll go to the TGD Technology Center, or NCO5. Go ahead and filter. And if you look at issued and in process, there's our security ticket. So we've bypassed the request and approve process and gone right to issued and in process for the system. This is a big difference because in a workflow, I want the work to get directly to the technicians. I don't want to hold it up for anything. And these are the kinds of controls that you have to manage the workflow of the system. So let's kind of summarize. The whole focus here is to provide a better employee self-service capability to interact with the facilities group, to give them an intuitive user interface that's easy to work with so that they can do the least amount possible to create the ticket. At the same time, for the technicians using the mobile framework, they can work anywhere in order to get access to their tickets. Provide a visualization of the location, show us where the work is located by highlighting the floor plan, giving us real-time status updates of not only the flow of the work, but the level of detail that's needed to complete the work, and again, to help measure performance. So with that, let's open it up for questions. And so Shoshana, Why don't you go ahead and see if there's any questions in the inbox, or do you have anybody want to raise their hand?
Great. Yeah, so we'll just give a minute for any questions to come in. I see one here already, but we'll just wait and see if there are any more.
Okay.
Dun-dun. Okay, let's go ahead with the first question here. It says, are there any different error messages that my employees would receive on mobile compared to the desktop version they're currently using?
They might look a little bit different, but the messages are generally the same, especially any field that's required and is validated. If you try to input data that's erroneous, you would get a message basically rejecting the ticket because or not allowing you to move forward until you put the right information in the inbox. But other than that, the messages are generally speaking the same.
And I saw a hand, so if somebody wants to ask a question, just put your hand back up and I will call on you. In the second question here, what is the best way for me to connect? So the service ticket that had it automatically been created, what type of push notifications can I send to someone so that they get the job done?
So as you saw from the service level agreement, there's quite a bit of control as to how much notifications that you want to do on top of just having access directly, on the device itself. But if you want to send notifications to the requester all along the way, you just push that one button, and every time the status changes, the requester gets a notification that the work has been updated. If you want to identify notifications specific to the technician or to the supervisor, again, all you have to do is, depending on what part of the workflow you want to do it, you can add those notifications to take place as well. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in terms of how much or how little communication. The thing that you want to be most careful about is don't over communicate, because the one thing, especially if somebody's very busy and active, you will flood their inboxes with a lot of emails and they might get lost in the shuffle and get frustrated after a while. Next.
Yeah, so another one came in and it says, when updating work requests on a mobile device, what if someone is accessing the same request and they're not on mobile?
So if somebody's on Web Central and they're on the work ticket and somebody else is sending an update from the mobile, so once the work ticket is on mobile, it's not communicating with the service. It's not communicating with the server until you ship it back at the completed stage, or until you sync it back, no matter what stage you're at. So the last person to input an update will basically overwrite the previous person's. So it's not like you can have two people update the record at the same time. One will go first, and then the second record will update any further details that go along with it.
Just to clarify, would that mean then if somebody has the work request open on their phone, somebody on Web Central would not be able to open that request?
No, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't explain that well. If the work request is open on the phone, and remember, you're not attached to the server, somebody else can look at it in Web Central and work on it at that point in time. When the person sends back their updates, they will, in possibility, either add new information or overwrite some information depending on when they make their change. But yes, two people can look at the same work ticket at the same time. Mobile does not lock the work ticket.
Great. Next question here. I want to let my employees use their own phones for Archibus applications, but I'm concerned with any security breaches. Does the Archibus application have its own protection of some kind?
Yeah, so it depends on the kind of security you have at your organization. We are working with quite a few customers that, even though the employees bring in their own mobile device, they still have to go through the company security protocols, and using single sign-on, they would register the device, and when they log in, they would be controlled by the same security that they have on their other normal computer devices. Separate from that, if they don't, and you just want them to use Archibus standard username and password security would be more than sufficient to manage any challenges of accessing the data from the mobile device, as long as you have the proper credentials.
Okay, great. And I think there's another one at the bottom. So in response to the last question, they said, you definitely answered my question, and that she wanted to know if the changes from Web Central could overwrite the mobile device if it was synced after Web Central changes was made. So that helped answer her question.
Good.
Last one I see here. My company is operating on Archibus version 22.
Yep.
Do we need to upgrade before we can use mobile applications?
So there's two parts of that. The Archibus Workplace, which is, the interface for the employees, definitely need to upgrade. That's not available in version 22. On the other hand, the mobile framework is available in, I believe, 22. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure it's available in 22 for the technicians and supervisors to do their work.
Great. We'll give another minute, but that's all the questions I see here.
Okay. All right. So let's take it to next steps then. So what's next? Our next episode, number 5, will be Back to Work Tools by Archibus. There's some exciting new capabilities that were recently introduced by Archibus that we want to review. And I also want to use this as an opportunity to tie it back to some of the other stuff that we've covered in the first 4 episodes. That session will be Thursday, October 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we look forward to seeing you then. And again, if you do have questions about any topic, please don't hesitate to submit them to askgreg@horizonsolutions.com. As a reminder, we are posting these videos on YouTube. Horizon has a YouTube channel that allows us to collect a lot of the information that we've created. We've even created a playlist of the videos for specifically the Ask Greg series, and they are posted in the playlist. So as we add them, you will be able to go back and view all of them. So far up on YouTube, 1 and 2 are there. We'll be posting 3 and 4 soon. And of course, episode 5 will be posted after it's completed. So it's a great place to go back and see all of the information that we share here in these particular series. And if you go to the list of videos, there's a lot of other exciting content prepared by Horizon on how to do quite a bit of stuff and introducing, new features and stuff like that. So hopefully you spend time visiting the homepage there for YouTube for Horizon. With that, we'll go ahead and let everybody go. Thank you very much. And again, don't hesitate to drop us a note. We'll look forward to hearing from you and seeing you in future sessions.